obviously we'll do, so today I want to kind of change it up a little bit because today's topic is the warehouse inventory history report. And I want to show you guys what it does and kind of how to use it. It can be used, so I'll preface this. Good morning, Appy. This can be used for a lot of different things, you guys, like a lot. And they're kind of like we talked about before with Coupa. Coupa's kind of like a gold mine for data. And so you can get a lot of information here. What you choose to do with it, what you want to do with it, what you can do with it, it's just a million different options. Okay, so I want to show you guys what the report is, show you guys what it does. And if you guys need help with your specific property, if you have specific property questions, obviously now is the time to answer. So because this report is so varying, right, in terms of just different things, please feel free to ask questions during. Please feel free to ask for examples. I can actually, we can give examples live during the class today. I really want you guys to get as much as possible out of this. So that's why I'm kind of changing it up a little bit. And so this class is going to be a little bit more interactive in the first half than maybe we've had in the past, because this module is so varied in what you can do with it. Okay, so the module is located in the setup screen. And in the setup screen, you guys have a lot more options, but when you guys go in here, one of the things you're going to be able to see is this on hand, or this inventory history report. That's what we're going to talk about today, which if I shared my screen, you guys, today's going to be a good day. You can tell. All right, let me know when you guys can see my screen.
Got it.
Sweet, thank you.
Good to go.
Okay, so setup is where we go, underneath reporting, and then right here where it says inventory history report. So I'm going to click on this and the system is going to take me where I need to go. You can go the long way and go to reports and find it this way, but I like the setup way because it takes you right where you need to go. So you're going to default to all. So I will tell you guys, you are able to see kind of company-wide records here. So you really need to be careful when you're researching that you're filtering appropriately or correctly. So you can see here, it has basically all of our records, right? This shows us exactly all of everything that's going on in Coupa. So it shows us when things are ordered in our warehouse. It shows us when we pick things in the warehouse. It shows us when we receive things in the warehouse. It shows us when we receive things into inventory. It shows us when we do cycle counts. It shows us adjustments. It's basically just a one big bucket of records of all of those inventory transactions. Okay. So a couple things to note. Some of the most useful features in this is using the advanced search when you are talking from a warehouse. That is any transaction where we are taking an item out of inventory. So that's when you pick things, when you receive things, when you adjust things out, right? Those are the types of transactions that are from the warehouse. And then you have to the warehouse. So, and that's items going into the warehouse. So when you're receiving into, when you're doing adjustments into, all of those things are to warehouse. So those are a couple of the most useful transactions. Also, the transaction type. So you can see, right, there's a lot in here, We don't use all these as a company. So a couple things we do use, right? Adjustment. You can search adjustments. Now remember, adjustments can be return to supplier adjustments. They can be spoilage adjustments. They can be inventory adjustments. They could be damage item like spoil shrinkage out. They can be return from department adjustments, right? All of those in Coupa are considered adjustments that we have our inventory person from finance help us with. But you can search by inventory adjustments using the type. So you can search by, we'll look at cycle counts. So you can see when cycle counts are stopped, when they're submitted, when they're started. So you can see all of those transactions too. So that's something you can see here. Inventory receipt, inventory transfer out. So inventory transfer out, that's the transaction that happens when you pick an item from your pick list. So when you're in your stock order and you're on your pick list and you've physically taken the stuff out of inventory and you pick it, that is called an inventory transfer out in this screen. Okay. And then you also do receiving. Some of this we don't use, remember. So just keep in mind, like those are a lot of the more helpful search fields here. Okay. Now you can see it gives us a lot of information. It gives us the PO, it gives us where the warehouse, it gives us locations, it gives us all this stuff. It also gives us the receiver. So something to note, when you're looking at inventory transfers out, there's not going to be this little attachment here because it's the pick. Okay. That's when we just click the little button. We say, yep, we picked this from the shelf. We're on our way to deliver it. When we look at receipts, so I'm going to try to find the right one here. Not the right one. I'm going to find it, you guys, don't worry. So when we're looking at any of the receipt transactions, either into inventory or out of inventory, so like once you pick something and you go deliver it, and when you come back, you receive it, that is where we'll see this little attachment. So we can tell from this screen, as a warehouse person, like, are we attaching the right documents? So it looks like this one doesn't have an attachment. It should. It looks like we're attaching things pretty consistently, right? So this is where you can immediately see, like, are the attachments there? Is the backing document there? Like, that's where we can almost immediately see. We can't see the document unless we click on and actually go into the transaction, but you can see that a document exists. So that's really helpful. So that is kind of the premise of like how it works and some of the useful filters. So you may be asking yourself, how would I use this? Like, where would this come into play? Why would this be useful for me? So I will say a lot of times this is a very useful screen when you are experiencing variances in your warehouse. Okay. And so honestly, like when you are researching an item, like I don't understand why I have 2 more than I should. I don't understand why I have 10 less than I should. What's going on, right? This is a great screen because I'm going to use this first item. So this is where your item numbers are going to be really useful, really useful. But remember, you're going to be able to see everybody's stuff. So you need to make sure whenever you're using the advanced search field and you have an all selected here, that you are always telling it what warehouse and or property you belong to, because you don't want to see, like, if I'm in Aurora, I don't want to see Lake Charles stuff because that's not going to help me do my inventory research. And we may stock the same things in our warehouses. And I need to tell it the item. Okay. So you can do that a couple different ways. You can do it by item number or description. I find that item number is faster and a little bit more reliable, just as a side note. Okay. So in this case, I want to see all these transactions for this item in the Cactus Pete's warehouse. I don't know what this item is. It's beverage, so I'm assuming some sort of alcohol. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my drop downs and I'm going to say, hey, I really want to know, like, everything that has gone into the warehouse for Cactus Pete's. And I really want to see all of the transactions for this item number. Okay. So one of the things about using this filter and these buttons, it's going to look at this first, and it's going to look at all of the transactions that are to this warehouse, this exact warehouse. And it's going to look at all the transactions to this warehouse that include this exact item number. Okay. So there are ways to change some of these filters, but we'll go into that in a minute. But that's kind of the basics of these filters and how you use them. So when I hit search, it's thinking, hopefully. Here we go. So these are all of the transactions. So you can see all of these are for Cactus Pete's, and all of these are for this item number. Now we can also see that they're all different kinds of transactions. So there's an inventory receipt, meaning we received it into inventory. There is a valuation update, meaning there's a cost change. So the system updated the valuation of my product. The system ran an update, but there was no change. It even tells me that. There was an inventory adjustment for some reason, right? And notice I'm only seeing items that are going to my warehouse. I'm not seeing all transactions because I am just telling the system to look at things into this warehouse. Now I could also look at things from this warehouse. So I can do that by just changing this filter and saying, I want to look at everything from the Cactus Pete's warehouse, and hit search. Now this is going to show me all of my inventory out, right? So like I did an inventory transfer out, I did an inventory transfer out, I did an inventory transfer out. Here's all my cycle count informations, right? So it is telling me a lot of, you can obviously see lots of information. It also is telling me the dates. So if I look at this item and I say, man, I have only wrecked out, right? So I've only wrecked out, what, 6 cases of this all year. So that helps me determine, well, how many do I stock? Should I stock as many as I stock? I've only wrecked out 6, and the most they order is 2 at a time. So what if my par on this is 6? Do I need 6? Heck no, that's 4 months worth of inventory. That's crazy. So this is where you can kind of go see your inventory transactions, and you can kind of gauge, right, how from research perspective, what your par should be, how fast things are moving, if they're moving, right? So this item hasn't been wrecked out since February. Should I stock it even? So that is kind of this screen. So Jess just asked a question, and it says, sometimes pricing in the warehouse gets a little goofy. We fix it, and then the average price goes up and down depending on the initial error. Yes. Can you walk us through an example of how to see through, like, what the outlets paid for what items during a time period? I can. I would actually suggest doing that in a different screen, if that makes sense. It's a little weird. You can do it in this screen, but you have to create a custom view to get the information out of this screen. You may even have to create a custom view to get the information out of another screen. And so custom views are something we haven't really gone over yet. I will tell you guys, custom views are ridiculously helpful. They can get you a ton of information. They can help you get information out of the system. However, you can see there's lots of views here, guys, lots of views. So if every person in the company is creating views, these lists are going to get longer and longer and longer and longer. So there is a great way to create a view. And I will show you that right now. So anytime you need to create a view, we're going to use my already created view here. You'll go down to the bottom and you'll hit create view. And this is where you can pick anything you want to see. There is literally 0 ways for me to show you all the ways this is applicable to your lives, right? It's available in every screen. You can create views anywhere you want. You can get all of this information out of the system. So you can see there's literally dozens of data points that I can get. There's dozens of filters I can use to give me what I want to see. But this is how you create your own views. Anyone can do this. I will say when you're doing this, visibility, please, 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 I cannot beg you enough to select the only me visibility. Because if you pick either one of these, a lot of other people can see it and we don't need to. So we'll just say that. So this is kind of where you guys can tell the system what information you want to get out, and it'll actually show you custom information. So I am actually going to use a report that I have. Oh, Lord. We switched screens real fast. Hold on. I am going to use a little trick that I have in Coupa. So I have a little report. It's called Nikki Ad Hoc. These views can be updated and changed at any time. Okay, so just keep that in mind. So I, like to Jess's point, I want to go in and research this price variance. Hopefully I'm never going to have this price variance again. So it's not necessarily something I want to create a view so I can see this specific information over and over and over and over again till the end of time. I just want to do a really specific research view. Well, I create a Nikki Ad Hoc view. I have them all over the place. I'm the only one that can see it. And basically it's kind of my go-to, and I just come back and I look at this over and I change it and I update it, and I just keep messing with this because I can change anything on here I want and then just save over it. Kind of like a Word document where you delete a bunch of stuff and save over it, and you can just keep using the same document as it changes. The views are the same way. So in this case, to Jess, do you have a specific item you can give us an example of, or a property? Maybe? No, Mike. Okay. So I'm going to start building this. So I am the only one that can see this. So because I want to see what my end user was charged in Jess's example, that's an outgoing transaction. So that's from the warehouse, right? Like that's where it's coming from. I even know the type. So technically an inventory transfer out, right? That's what we just learned is the pick. That's when the charge happens. So I can even go so far as to say, I just want to see inventory transfer outs. And that is going to give me all of the transactions to my end users. Now, I still need to tell it what property. So I can just pick my accounting company code. In this case, we'll pick Blackhawk because I know it off the top of my head and we don't have an example yet. And then I can do I can put the item number in here, but notice this says or and this says or. So if I were to save this, it would look for inventory transfers out or documents with this accounting code. we don't want to look at ors. So we want to match all conditions. Notice it changes it to and. So now the search is going to go, I want to see inventory transfers out for and documents that are accounting code 2360. And documents that have an item number of, and we're going to pick an item number randomly. So as an example, we are going to pick item number 201010. And then that's kind of what we're going to look at. So we're going to look at transactions for inventory transfers out that also have this accounting code, that also have this item number on them. Okay. And then down here, this is the information I want out of the system. So like, do I need the chart of accounts? Do I need the currency? No, I know it's US dollars. Do I need the property code? Do I need the receipt request? Do I need any of these things, right? So these are all the things in the selected columns field that are going to show up for me to look at. These are all the other ones that are available. I already have price and total and all that in here, so I don't need to. If I wanted to change some of this stuff, I could just drop and drag it back and forth, and it's going to show up. Now it's not in my report. Now it's in my report. Now it's not in my report. Okay. So once I've selected all the information I'm looking for, yes, this is overwhelming. Yes, this is a lot. Yes, you can get a lot out of it. So just keep that in mind. It took me many years to get good at this and lots of practice. So I'm going to scroll down, and because I want to just save over this and just use this view repeatedly, I'm not going to hit save as new. I'm just going to hit save, and it's basically going to take the settings. I'm going to get rid of these other filters that I have down here, and it should show me the documents we're looking at. Now it isn't, so that's cool. So what happened? What went wrong? I gave it too many criteria, or I gave it the wrong criteria, and it's telling me that there's no documents out there that match. How do I fix it? I just edit the view, figure out what's going on. So I don't, maybe this is, so I know the item number's right. I know the inventory transfers out right. Maybe they don't have that accounting company code on them. Maybe it is a warehouse that I need to pick, or a department, or an account. It could be another filter that I need to use to get the information. So in this case, I am going to say I want these items from a specific warehouse, and I'm going to pick the Blackhawk one. And then I'm going to just save again. And so what that's doing is it's literally updating. Here we go. It's updating the system to show me what I apparently fixed the right filter. So now I'm looking at the data I need to see. So in this case, this is where I can see the total. This is where I can see the price. So to Jess's point, this gives me dates and this gives me price. So and I didn't give it a time frame. So this is every transaction from the history of Coupa time from this warehouse for this item. So what's the easiest way? So I can scroll through all this and I can double check. There's obviously not a whole lot of variances in this beer here. Or to make it a little bit easier, I can add a filter at this point, and it's going to basically just filter more from this view. Okay. And so I'm going to say I really only want a transaction with a created date this month, and I'm going to hit search. So it's going to just show me those transactions. Now there's quite a few, and I can see the price of all the transactions. This is probably the easiest way, where you can see what your end user was charged, how many cases, and when. So this is one way you can use the report. All right. I'm going to open it up to questions because this can get really like huge. You can use it many different ways. You don't have to use it at all if you don't want to. But what I'm still recording so that, you know, if other people have the same questions later, they can obviously look at this recording and see what we're doing. But what questions do you guys have? Guys, I don't think I did that good of a job explaining this. Are you sure you don't have questions?
So, Nikki, I know you can also use like under the orders and do stock orders for kind of looking at to like get usage for cars and stuff. Is there a reason you prefer the inventory reports over the stock orders, or is there like anything that you've seen that may not appear in the stock order versus the inventory reports?
That's a great question, actually. So what Carla is talking about is in the system, when you go to orders, and you go to stock order or stock order lines, this is actually the tab that you can see all of the warehouse orders that eventually become our picks. So these are all of our orders to our warehouses right here. Now, to Carla's point, you could go to stock order lines, which is all the line level detail information of all these orders. And you could, I mean, you can see Blackhawk, Bud Light right here. You could absolutely get a lot of the same information here. I will say I prefer the inventory history report because when you're looking at PARs, you not only want to see what's going out and how much, but you also want to see how often it's coming in, because PARs aren't only having product on the shelf, it's how fast does that product turn, how old is it once I give it to my customers. So I want to make sure I'm ordering in at the appropriate quantity and ordering out. And so this screen, you can not only search the out transactions and the in transactions at the same time, you'll also be able to see adjustments. So like maybe the reason we've had to order some in is because we dropped a pallet in the warehouse and we broke 50 of them. We don't know. But this is a good screen to kind of capture all of the things that would affect usage, where the stock order line screen only shows you the orders that are coming in. It doesn't necessarily show you like you ordering into the warehouse. It doesn't show you adjustments. You also don't see back orders on the stock order lines report. Here, this is the true number of items you picked and gave out, where if you're just looking at the order screen, you're potentially looking at what was asked, not what was given.
Hey, Nick,
Yeah.
just to follow up on that, then if I'm in the stock order side, that is showing what the original PO said, or after the PO has been modified to what actual receipts were?
So that's a complex question. It depends. Depends. The stock order screen will show you the original requested quantity if the back order process was followed correctly. So like I am going to order 2 cases of this Corona and maybe the warehouse only has 1, and that extra case shows up on my back order list and I close the back order correctly. This screen is going to show me the 1. However, let's say I order these 2 and the warehouse says they have 2, but they don't. So that's going to end up on my pick. I'm going to pick 1, I'm going to give them 1, and then I'm going to come to this screen and I'm going to close the order. So this is not a reliable method to see consistently what we are actually giving our end user, because it does not take into consideration potential variances that we experience on a daily basis.
That is really helpful. So I know when I'm trying to run accurate numbers, I know where I need to look.
Yeah, like this is a really helpful screen it, in some ways. So I will say, if we are reacting appropriately, and we are, I guess appropriately is kind of a generic term, but if we are like, if we're getting our end users requesting something over and over and over again, and we're like, oh my gosh, I totally know they need this. So we rush, we get it in, we take 40 extra steps to get something in the warehouse for them, and we fill it. This, if they keep ordering it, right, to tell us, I really need this, I really need this, I really need this. If I run this screen, I'm going to see that, and I'm potentially going to be able to take that into consideration when I'm setting my PARs, because I can see how many times, but I can also get that information from the back order screen. When I'm looking at back orders, I can export that information and be like, man, I back ordered this Corona like a lot, like what's going on? And that kind of prompts me to go, how many have they ordered? How many have I picked? Why is there such a big difference? You know, you may have to reach out to an end user and go, okay, I realize that I canceled your back order like 8 times. How many cases of Corona do you really use a week? So that's where the data does kind of play into it. But I prefer from like an actual usage, actionable, this is what we did, this is what we accomplished, this is what we filled, this is what you got arena. That's definitely more the inventory history report. This is probably more like, oh look, they wrecked it out every week, I may or might not have filled it, but I at least know that I need to have some in stock every week kind of aspect, if that makes sense.
Yes, this gives me a high level of confidence if I'm running reports on the inventory side. Conversely, say I want to be able to understand volume for direct purchases. It seems that there isn't that same level of confidence that running that type of information, I can take it to the bank.
That's very true. And the reason being is because in inventory, we really need like inventory to make inventory as accurate as possible, right? We want to make sure there's always an item number in the system. It's always cataloged. It's a perpetual inventory system. So the system keeps up to date on some of that information. It's always using the same item number to record, the same item information to record. It ties all together in one location, where on the direct purchase side, it really depends on how well we're monitoring the buyer action queue. We could have set up 2 different items that are virtually the same thing in a catalog and not realized it. Like, there is some data issues on the direct side that don't necessarily go away because we allow free texts. But at least on the inventory side, because it is cataloged and it is tracked to such a specific level, it is very easy to do solid research on what's going on.
Good to know. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. What other questions? I mean, do you guys feel like you're going to use this report? Did you know it existed before today?
I knew I'd use it.
Yay! So I will say there is, so just, I know I haven't mentioned the warehouse PowerPoint deck in a while. You're welcome. There is a couple pages in there that go through the definitions of these words and specifically the types. So that if you guys don't remember all of these types and some of the information we went over today, obviously the call is recorded, so you can go back and watch it, but that's also listed in your warehouse deck. And so, how can I pull out a report view of the on-hand balances of an item at different periods? You can't. So you cannot go back in time and say, what was my on-hand balance on March 1st at the end of the day? Coupa does not have that ability. You could do the math and figure it out, but there's no way for you to, there's no systematic way in Coupa to tell you that information. Sorry. That would be really cool though. But that would be so many data points that they would have to save somewhere. I don't even know that that would be realistic. But here you go. Any other questions about this report? How to use it, what you could use it for? Okay. I have